Welcome to The Deep Dive. We're the podcast that goes deep into the sources, pulling out those, surprising bits of knowledge to help you really get a handle on things. Today, we are tackling something huge, happiness, and specifically how it kind of shifts as we go through life. For ages, there was this one big idea, a theory that everyone pretty much agreed on, looked solid, but guess what? Recent global data seems to have just turned it completely upside down. So our mission today, figure out why. Why are young people, who we always thought were the happiest bunch, suddenly showing up as the least happy? Okay, let's unpack this.
Right. So for decades, behavioral science had this model. We called it the happiness U-curve.
The U-curve, yeah, I've heard of that.
Exactly. Picture a U-shape. Satisfaction starts high when you're young, then it dips down in midlife, the whole midlife crisis idea.
The classic slump.
And then it was supposed to climb back up again as people got older.
Okay, makes sense intuitively.
And what was really striking wasn't just that it felt right. It was backed by so much data. We're talking studies from over 132 countries.
Wow, 132.
Hundreds of different studies. And, get this, researchers even saw a similar pattern in great apes.
Apes? Seriously?
Seriously. So it seemed like this incredibly fundamental thing, really one of the most consistent findings we had.
That kind of consistency across cultures, even species. Yeah, that makes it really compelling, doesn't it? You'd think, okay, this has to be how things work.
Yeah.
So hearing that it's just reversed completely, that sounds, well, almost unbelievable. Here's where it gets really interesting. What could possibly flip something like that?
It is astonishing, yeah. That U-curve we all took for granted, it's basically collapsed. The newest research, particularly work led by economists like David Blandflower and Andrew Oswald, it's showing a totally different picture, almost inverted.
Inverted. So like unhappy young people.
Exactly. The data is now showing that young people, who used to be right at the top of that curve, they are now statistically the least happy group.
Wow. So it's not a U anymore. Is it like an L shape for young people now? Or down then up? How bad is it?
It's a really dramatic shift. Young adulthood, that period in your late teens, early 20s, that's now become the lowest point for life satisfaction.
It's not midlife.
Not midlife anymore. And this isn't just one or two places.
Right.
We're seeing this documented in over 82 countries. Adults in their 30s, 40s, 50s, they're actually reporting more happiness now than young adults.
Huh.
Which has led to talk about this quarter life crisis, that really tough time in your 20s, early 30s maybe.
Yeah, figuring things out. Career, relationships.
All that big life stuff, lots of anxiety, self-doubt. And what's fascinating here is just how global this is, how significant the numbers are. It's a total flip of what we thought we knew.
That is a huge change, especially because, you used to hit those happy milestones earlier. Blanchflower, you mentioned him, he asked this really smart question about it all. Something like, are young people just having fewer good times, or are they actually dealing with more bad stuff?
Exactly.
And it feels like the answer is leaning towards the more bad stuff side.
It absolutely is. The data really points that way. They looked at something called days of poor mental health as a way to measure, well, despair, essentially.
Yeah, despair days.
And the findings are pretty stark. There's been this sharp rise in young people reporting having poor mental health pretty much constantly, like 30 out of 30 days feeling mentally unwell.
Relentless.
Yeah. And if you compare the data from, say, 2009 to 2018, and then look at 2019 to 2021, you see these big jumps upwards in despair. And it's hitting young women particularly hard. They're reporting levels of sadness, self-harm, dissatisfaction, historically high levels. It's really, really concerning.
It's so easy to just think, oh, it's the economy, isn't it? Jobs, money worries.
That's the immediate thought, yeah.
But the sources we looked at suggest something else is actually the biggest statistical factor here. What did the research really zero in on?
You're right. The economy is part of the picture, but it's not the main driver, according to the stats. The variable that correlates most strongly, it's technology use.
Technology.
Specifically, smartphone ownership and how much time is spent on social media, especially if it's more than, say, 5 hours a day.
5 hours. Wow.
Yeah. There's a psychologist, Jean Twenge. She specializes in this generational stuff. And her research, it's pretty clear. Social media use correlates more strongly with depression and anxiety than things like being unemployed or even major economic slumps.
Wait, stronger than unemployment?
That's what her data suggests. It's a really significant finding.
That is profound. What sort of numbers show that link? Is it like a definite cause or just a correlation?
Well, the numbers are quite striking. For girls, heavy social media use means they're about 3 times more likely to experience depression.
3 times?
And for boys, it's about 2 times more likely. And what makes this really compelling is you see these same patterns globally. UK, US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. It underlines just how widespread this digital effect might be.
Right.
Now, researchers are always cautious about saying cause definitively, Correlation isn't causation.
Sure.
But the strength of the link, the consistency across different countries, even when they control for other factors, it makes a very strong case that there's a direct connection here. It's not just random. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it looks like a massive environmental change affecting a whole generation.
So it goes beyond just seeing something upsetting online, maybe. It's more fundamental.
Yeah.
Like it messes with your expectations.
Exactly that. It's also about how it warps expectations. Think about those traditional markers of becoming an adult.
Finishing school, getting a job, house, partner, kid.
Yeah, all that stuff. For young people today, all those things are happening much later than they used to.
Okay.
But at the same time, what do they see online? They see these curated highlight reels. Everyone looks successful, beautiful, rich, unbelievably happy.
The Instagram effect.
Totally. It inflates expectations way beyond reality for most people.
Right.
One of the sources puts it really bluntly. The difference between expectation and reality is steadily growing apart.
Ooh,
And that gap, that growing disconnect, it doesn't just make you feel a bit disappointed. It fuels real dissatisfaction. It
Yeah.
feeds into that despair we were talking about. It's like living in a distorted reality.
So what does this all mean then, when you see this playing out or maybe even feel it yourself?
Well, and it creates this really difficult cycle, too. A vicious cycle.
Yeah.
Think about it. Spending hours on social media often stops people from doing the very things we know help with happiness.
Like what?
Like getting enough sleep, for one. Or actually hanging out with friends face-to-face, offline. Or pursuing hobbies you genuinely enjoy.
Right, you're just scrolling instead.
Exactly.
Right.
And while you're scrolling, it just ramps up the FOMO, the fear of missing out. It keeps hammering home those unrealistic expectations.
Yeah.
And it eats up time you could be using for things that actually bring joy. There was this one stat that really jumped out. Almost 1 in 4 of America's poorest kids spend 7+ hours a day on social media.
7 hours. Daily.
Daily. That's basically like having a second full-time job, but one that often makes you feel worse.
Wow. That's
So-
a lot of time lost. Time you could be, I don't know, learning something, connecting with people, resting.
Precisely.
As you think about all this,
Mm-hmm.
what really stands out to you? Okay, that was a really eye-opening deep dive. We've seen this huge, frankly startling shift in who's happy and who's not. This complete reversal of the old U-curve. And the evidence we looked at points pretty strongly towards our digital lives, especially for young people, playing a major, maybe even detrimental role. But the sources also offered something. Well, something you can actually do, sort of agency.
Yeah, absolutely. And that really raises an important question, for your own reflection, how you choose to engage. The author we focused on wrapped it up with this really direct, powerful thought, basically. Your life will never get worse by spending less time on social media.
Simple, but powerful.
It really is. It's presented as this practical step you can take, a way to maybe claw back some control over your own well-being, rather than just, waiting for big changes from companies or governments. It puts the power back in your hands to some extent, a reminder that our own choices matter here.
A truly profound thought to leave us with, something practical to consider. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive today. Until next time, keep thinking, keep exploring, and hey, maybe try putting the phone down for a bit. See what happens.